Hey, this is Stephen St. John, and I want you to listen to my new podcast, Hot Mic with SSJ. You can watch Hot Mic with SSJ on YouTube or download the podcast wherever you download your favorite podcasts.
Welcome, all you wiretappers out there, back here in the studio of Gangland Wire. Don't forget to hit me up on Venmo or PayPal if you feel like supporting the program. I have a special program today. We have Ron Chepesiuk from, where are you from, Ron?
I'm originally from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, and I've been living in Rock Hill for the last 35, 40 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And we have Jesus Ruiz Henao. Welcome, Jesus.
Thank you very much.
Now, Jesus is originally from Colombia. Now, Ron has done a book called The Real Mr. Big. Ron is a pretty prolific true crime author. You need to only check him out on Facebook, a lot of the different Facebook places. I don't know. Do you have an actual Facebook page?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. I have a website, ronchepesiuk.com. And that'd probably be, and the Facebook would be the best place to check with me.
And check my show notes, folks, and I'll have links to all this up there. So if you want to buy the book or check out Ron's other work, we had him on in-depth deep dive into the Colombian American drug connection, the cocaine connection called, was it the Drug Lords, I believe, Ron?
Yeah, it was Drug Lords. It's called Narcos Now.
Okay.
Book.
And Ron has done a deep dive into this world, and we've all lived it. I was a soldier in the Ronnie Reagan war on cocaine coming out to Colombia at one time in my life. And now we're going to look at the British connection, which I've heard about, but I always wondered when I was doing drugs, how did they get that stuff from Colombia over to Europe? It's pretty easy to get it up to the United States, but how do they get it over to Europe? And Jesus, I think you're going to be able to tell us a little bit about that, correct?
Yes. My first view to travel to Europe was because by early 80s, mid 80s, the DIA was very powerful in Colombia, and they will have the power to do anything in this country when it's about drugs. And I was really scared of them, and for that reason, I never went to America, never think to do anything over there. And on top of that, the main cartels, Medellin and Cali cartels, were already in power of the market there in this drug business. That was the main reason I decided to move to Europe. I first arrived to Spain, then I first arrived to Italy, then I moved into Spain, then I went to France. But when I arrived later to UK, I saw they had a place for the market, and I started to set up the market there.
Yeah, he arrived at the right time. The European drug trade was a little bit behind the U.S. in terms of cocaine. And you mentioned the Cali cartel and the Medellin cartel. Jorge Ochoa and Gilberto Rodriguez Orwella, they were members of the Medellin and Cali cartel, went on a fact-finding mission, so to speak, in 1984 to see about the market. And that's how the trade really started to develop. They saw a big opening for it. And Jesus was ahead of his time too, because he also saw it. And it's just about the time that Jesus went to England, right? 1985. And he explored the market, did his research like he always did, and decided that there was a great opportunity there for the criminally minded.
Interesting. There's always an opportunity in drugs, when when the mob in the United States couldn't make money off of illegal alcohol, they went to gambling, and then later on they made money off of drugs all along, but later on drugs became the real money maker. That is and Jesus, you are a typical example. a real example of an immigrant community, a bright young guy who goes to a foreign country where he doesn't really speak the language, where he doesn't really have any connections, no family connections, nothing. And there's a way for you to go and make money and really do something. And that's with, starts off in the United States with prohibition with alcohol, and with cocaine, that's, you know, that's the deal. That's the way to really get something going.
Yeah.
So did you, when you first got there, you didn't go there with the idea that you were going to go in the cocaine business, did you? Or did you?
When I first started, I was looking for any kind of opportunity. But when I went to Italy, I went to meet some contacts from the Sicilian mafia, and they introduced me to some of them contacts in London, and that is the way I finally arrived to London. For the first time, I was a very young boy, and then I come back to Colombia, and then I explained to my friends over here the opportunity to set up a market in the UK, and then I went back to London for goods in 1985.
Right.
How did you get introduced into the Sicilian mafia? Did you have another connection already?
Not really. In UK, I had to start making the connection. I had to start making the contacts, but that was not really a problem. That was easy to start making a contacts, making connection with people, because mid-80s in UK, whenever, even now, whenever they notice you are a Colombian, they start demanding.
And they figure you have a connection right straight to the source, right, just because you're from Colombia.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Easy to make connection because just you're from Colombia, and they start, how can I get some? How the demand is there. Everyone is demanding for that, and that is you feel. I was feel that I'm a Colombian. I had to start supplying these people.
It's really amazing. I mean, Jesus was in his early 20s, and his friend had the contact in Sicily with Sicilian mafia, and Jesus volunteered to go, which was, you know, quite remarkable. He traveled all the way from Colombia to Italy to talk to mafia,
yeah,
the Sicilian mafia, the mafia. I mean, the biggest mafia in the world, the most important mafia at that time in the world. And he was able to, like a diplomat, make contacts, and they put him on his way to England. He went to England, made further contacts, and with that knowledge, he went back to Colombia and came up with the idea of using the mail service to move the drugs. It was very small at first, but he was making, you know, good money at the time.
Yes.
So when you contact the mafia and then they connect you with somebody in England, was it another Sicilian in England? And did you have to give them a little piece of the action? Did you have to keep them paid off all the time?
Yes, normally that pay off all the time, yeah.
Okay. And was it another Sicilian when you got to England?
Yeah.
And so when you got to England, then I know there's English organized crime. There's some Sicilians. It's not quite like the United States. Did you did you just go into like some of the drug places, the discos where they do a lot of drugs and start asking around and start finding a dealer? I mean, I'm always curious about how people find each other in this world, because it's such a secretive world and everybody's suspicious that somebody else is going to be an informant or an undercover cop or something.
I was very, very careful to the new people I met. And before I do any deal with them, I never presented myself that was me. I always presented that I was just a messenger. And I was in the middle. And for that reason, that was an informant or nothing like that. They were not interested in me because they weren't interested in the main guy. That was me at the same time, but I never presented myself. That was me. And whenever I make somebody new, before check for their background and everything about them family and everything before I started to do any deal with them. I just say to them, I need to pass the message, I need to pass the message, and then after I get the information I need, and after I've done my research, I will say to them, oh yeah, the big man say, yes, no problem to start doing business with you.
You're always taking a risk. You're always taking a risk when you're a gangster. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could be careful and all that. So I think Jesus is a little bit lucky too, but he increased his luck by being really cautious. You know, being really cautious. And he did this with everybody. He did this with the people he hired to run his organization. You know, he would check them out just like an employer. You know, he would check their backgrounds. He would go see where they hung out. He would check them, you know, for honesty. And, you know, it worked. You know, he had a very, very good, very tight oiled organization. It ran real well.
Were you over in England? Were you able to find cops that would take some money and maybe help you check people out and that kind of thing? And a cop would be invaluable to check people out.
Yes, there will be people there. Yeah.
You found cops that you could pay off.
Yes, that were about 5 cops working on my organization. They were even arrested maybe a year before before I was arrested.
Yeah.
So in the book, it talked about how you kind of started getting bigger as you won a lot of money in the lottery over there. You won 100,000 pounds in the lottery in England. And
Spotted ball lottery.
Spotted ball, and you were able to invest that into cocaine.
Is no really, because when I won the spotted ball, I already have some money on my pocket. But that is the money the police say I use it to build up my empire.
So were the people in Colombia, were they fronting you, as we say? Were they just giving you the cocaine? And then when you would sell it to somebody else, then you go back and pay for the cocaine you already had? I'm always interested in nuts and bolts of how these things work.
People in Colombia, when they send a consignment of cocaine, I will always pay that first. But many times they will send without any payment in advance. I will pay them back after I sold the cocaine.
Okay, so if something happened and you lost it, then you had a shipment got busted by customs or something, then you're just out the money, and then
I will have to pay from my own pocket. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I was really lucky because I lost very few quantities. I never lost any big quantities, 100 or 300 kilos, things like that. Never. Only a couple of times I lose 5 kids with somebody, another 20 kids with somebody, when delivery people, but that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned, the Cali and the Medellin cartel, he worked with members of the Norte Valley cartel, which was the third cartel, and it operated in his area. And he was related to some members. He knew other members, and he developed a close working relationship with them, which was remarkable because there's a lot of infighting, a lot of killing, and he managed to keep his contacts going all the way until the end, you know, of his organization.
So I noticed some of your money you paid off. A lot of it was for shipping. You had big shipping expenses to the people that took it on boat. As you got to be bigger and bigger, people that took it on boats, you had people on those boats, you had customs officials, you had all kinds of people to pay off. There had to be a lot of balls, a lot of details that you had to keep up in the air and going all the time. How was that life? I mean, were you on the phone and your pager and everything 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? That had to take a lot of energy.
Yes, sometimes when the war comes, we have to keep working 24 hours a day. Yes.
So was your primary port of entry Spain? I think I read something about coming in Spain. Was that, or did you take it directly to England? How was your route set up?
I didn't hear the question properly.
Did you ship most of your cocaine through Spain, or did you also use England?
Most of them come, yes, through other European countries and then into England, but a lot coming direct to England as well, into the Liverpool and Portsmouth.
It was very easy to ship cocaine from Spain because of the European Common Market. You know, there were no borders.
It was so easy because there was no borders. Yeah.
And so he can just, you know, the boats came, they used small boats to bring the cocaine on shore. He put them in lorries, and they moved right all the way to England. Of course, that changed now because England dropped out of the EU. So it's probably a little bit harder today to ship the cocaine.
Yeah, I imagine it is. So again, that's a lot of people you've got working for you. How do you keep track of all that?
Yes, at some point I have over 20,000 people working, dealing with, especially with the money, because when the cocaine arrived, that was so easy to disappear, right? Come and straight away that goes. In less than 24 hours, 1 ton of cocaine is gone. But the money, that was the one who was making the problem, especially to send money back to Colombia. And for that reason, we had to create like a gyros company and employ over a lot of people.
The gyros refers to the money transfers, you know, that they made, like electronic money transfers that were transferred overseas. And he had like 20,000 people in Colombia that would pick up the money. And they would ship in under 500 pounds because that was the legal amount before you had to report paperwork. It works like the United States too in money law. It's $10,000 here in the United States. You know, you can move money up to $10,000, and if it's over 10,000, then you gotta report it.
So, God, that's a lot of people. And then did you have somebody in Colombia that would go around and collect all that money in order to get it back in the larger amounts to the suppliers? Because they had $100,000 coming at some time.
I have a couple of, one of them was my younger brother, and he was the main person to deal with the money in Colombia. And he used to go to different cities and collect the money. And in every city, I had somebody as well, like a manager, who will in charge of the people who go to the companies to collect the money, and he will pick up all the money from people. He will get all the money together, and then he will hand the money back to my brother, and then my brother will hand the money to my old boss.
Wow. And that's all cash. That's probably 5s, 10s, 20s, maybe some 50s, but probably not even that many $100 bills, was there?
Yeah, when you think of it, I mean, you talk to drug traffickers, they say selling the drugs is easy. Moving the money is the hard part. I mean, getting the money out of the country, yeah, it's the hard part. It's a headache, you know, a nice headache, of course, but yeah, it's, and he had such an incredible organization that, you know, it was like a major corporation. It was like GM, General Motors, or IBM, you know?
That's what I'm thinking. You had to have like, an executive vice president or something. You had to have division heads. You had to have somebody running the transportation division on both sides. You had to have somebody running the money transportation division. And then underneath that person, he had thousands of people doing the money, and then somebody else had to be on the collection end over in Colombia. This had to be in both England and Colombia. That's amazing.
You can see the problem too. I mean, it's so complicated that eventually something's going to go wrong.
Oh yeah,
there's something's going to go happen. You know what I mean? And no matter how careful he was, this would eventually happen.
Way too many people know about that.
Yeah.
Way too many people, end up getting in trouble. Want to get their way out of it. Want to give a little information. They may not know much, but they know enough to get somebody started on you.
That's exactly right.
How they, I noticed also in the book that MI5, I believe, that's the internal, like the FBI in England, right? And they were like in the United States, they were totally disrupted by 9/11. And Jesus, you were like in the, that was kind of your heyday during 9/11. That gave you a little leeway, because same way in the United States after 9/11, all that kind of drug and high-end, mafia, those kinds of units all sent people to the Joint Task Force on Terrorism, and I'm sure it's the same way in England. Eventually, they're going to come back. So did you like, how did you deal with the police? I mean, I'm always curious about that, because I've worked the other side of these deals. And so did you even think about the police? I mean, did you do counter surveillance? Did you watch for people watching you, have your phone lines tested, look for bugs in your room or your car? No, something happened.
Yes.
There. Okay, now.
I believe for that time when I was doing my deals, my business, I saw that I do like a research in the British intelligence and the police, and I noticed that they were rely too much in technology. For that reason, I wanted to keep away from the technology, use the mobile phone, computers, everything like that. And I start to using the old methods, like always I pass the message through person, face to face, never using any technology. And then thanks to that, and when they realized that was me, it's only because I was grass up. But they never pick up anything from the technology in their intelligence. And I was watching then anyway, before I was arrested, when they were around me, follow me, but I never expected, I never thought I'm going to be arrested anyway.
We have a chapter in there where we talk about how they were following him, how they were bugging him. And the thing about law enforcement is, they're kind of slow at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A gangster always gets the head start, but they got so much resources and and so much money and determination. I mean, to go after criminals that eventually they come up to speed. And when you got 250 police officers working on this case, that's how much they had. That's Stephen Laird told me that, one of the officers, they had 250 officers at one time. It's no brainer, right?
Oh yeah. I used to wonder sometimes. I think we'd be following somebody. I think if that guy only knew, how many resources were on him and how much we knew about him, he would just die. I mean, he would get out of the business fast. Yeah, and there at the end, I noticed they were all over you. There's some stuff in the book about how they try to engage you in conversations in restaurants, and I started noticing that the same people were showing up in the same places. That's always a problem that you got. Is you only got so many people that can get close to somebody and show up twice at the same place. And if guys watching it all, it's like, there's something wrong here.
Well, Jesus actually got out of the drug trade, right, Jesus? You actually got out, but it was too late by then. It was a little bit too late. If you had maybe a year or so earlier, he might have got away with it, right? But they were onto him, and he made another mistake. He revealed his identity to a friend, and who became an informant against Jesus. But he actually got out of the drug trade, and I described that in the book, where we talk about the what happened around that.
So actually, from what you said, Jesus, is most of the people didn't even think you were the boss. They didn't know who the boss was, and you didn't really reveal yourself to most of the people, although you had to reveal yourself to who you were and your position to a certain amount of people. And so that was smart. You're one of the smarter drug dealers, I think, that was out there. Most guys got a big ego. They want everybody to know they're the big man.
Yeah. Yes, it's true. And thanks to that, I managed to make very big contacts. because they always get me as a messenger. I pass the message to my
Yeah.
cell,
Yeah.
and then I make very, very good contacts.
You allowed people to underestimate you, didn't you?
Yeah, he was very low key. I mean,
Yeah.
but you know, he liked to spend money. I mean, but he didn't do it in England, like a lot of gangsters, you know, that they flashed their wealth, you know, in their neighborhood, right? In their hood.
Yeah, yeah.
He didn't do that. He went to Spain. He went abroad, and he told me once he spent over $100,000 on a weekend, you know, on a vacation on that. So, you know, he always took cautious. He was a very cautious guy, you know, but like I said, eventually law enforcement catches up with you.
Yeah. Another thing I'm curious about is I noticed there was a little bit in the book about sending money to Switzerland. Now, how did that work? So you always hear about this in the TV or movies. People establish these numbered accounts in Switzerland and they take, you know, hide their money there. How did that work for you to actually do that?
Most of the money was sent over by gyros into the accounts, and then people will collect the money. We had to contact the person first, ask for the ID number, name, full name, and the money is sent it to them. That was one of the ways I used to move the money around. But other ways, I used to send money through the Cayman Island, Panama, and then into a business account in a country in Latin America, sometimes to Brazil or sometimes to Colombia. It's always it's always a lot of different ways to launder the money. It's not easy, it's hard, but because the leave signals for where the money go on.
Now, how did you keep your cash money around for bribes and that kind of thing? You had to have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash money at hand to pay these bribes. They're not going to take a check. They're not going to, they just want cash.
One of his stash houses had one time, he told me what, $14 million at one time, Jesus. And
Yeah.
he kept money in his car. He kept like $30,000 in his car, right? Which he used, you know, it was like petty money for us, you know what I mean? Like just sort of throwaway money.
Walking around
Walking
money.
around money, right?
That's what I always called it.
Walking.
But when the cops catch you with $30,000 in your car, of course, you probably weren't getting stopped. We have stopped people with like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in your car. You know, bingo, drug dealer, take the money and then put all your attention on that guy.
Yeah.
Now that house, I mean, just took like briefcases full of money and just stacked it up in cardboard boxes or something in a house with $14 million. I had a guy there in Kansas City one time. He said, I was a sergeant. He said, Sergeant, he said, did you ever see a whole room full of money? I said, no, I haven't. He said, well, I have. So it sounded like you had like a whole room full of money, just like that guy did.
Yeah. Well, you imagine $14 million in the pound notes, right? How much space that would take. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, one of the things interesting about Jesus is that his life would have been in danger if he stayed in Colombia. He actually made a very good move. In fact, I have a chapter in there that called the Sicarios, where he talks about how he got in trouble with the Sicarios, who are contract killers, very vicious individuals. You know, that their living was made through killing people.
Yeah.
And Jesus got caught up with them. You may want to talk a little bit about that, Jesus. That's it. That's the interesting part.
Yes. When before I moved to Colombia, to UK, I became in debt. I lose some money from trying to export some cocaine, and I became in debt. And the sicarios were on me because of that. I'll try. At that time, I didn't have the money to pay back. And they gave me like negotiator for many deals they had to do, going around many cities in Colombia. And I was like a negotiator, but they wanted to kill people. the main job for them is to kill the person, and they will get paid. But I was against that because I was a negotiator. I wanted to reach an a deal with the person who owed who owed the money, and then leave the person, give some time to the person to pay back. But they were not happy with my approach to that kind of business, and they wanted us to go to see the person and kill the person. But I was in charge of the very big group of them. Because of that, they decided to murder me. And then when I realized they were attacking me, sometimes when I was in a disco and many times around the city, they were getting my car through with machine guns. They were fired on my car. And then I realized, and even the big boss told me, it's better to you leave the country, go away, or they will get you. And that is one of the main reasons as well I had to go away from Colombia.
Yeah. One of the sicarios that was after him was a guy named Miko, and eventually he went to jail and he got murdered in prison. And so it freed up Jesus to come back. He was able to come back because the threat was gone, by then. So he was able to come back to Colombia and visit.
Did they ever come to England, or did you have any enforcement people in England?
When I was working, yes, I used to have 3 Colombians and 1 Italian, and they were my enforcers in case I need their help. And even the night I was arrested, I contacted them, and they wanted to be with me at home, ready to repel the police, to fight in the police with the guns and everything. But I don't know, I decided, no, it's too late. Leave it for tomorrow to see what happened. They were arrested and sentenced for gun offenses.
Wow. Okay. Well, we're. Let me show you something here. There's the book, folks, Real Mr. Big by Ron Chepesiuk
Connection.
and Jesus Ruiz Henao. And we've been talking to both those men and getting an inside look at how a Colombian refugee became the United Kingdom's most notorious cocaine kingpin. You remind me a little bit of Kansas City. We had a guy come from Los Angeles early on in the cocaine days, and he worked at a fast food place and saved money, and he got enough money to buy like a quarter, like a pound or a little less a pound of cocaine. He sold that. He bought a whole kilo of cocaine. He had connections back in LA. He bought a kilo of cocaine. He sold that, made some money. He bought another kilo, and then pretty soon he was buying 4 and 5 kilos at a time. He just kind of built it up. You kind of remind me of that guy. There you are, the $1 billion, 1 billion pound king of cocaine, Mr. Big, jailed for 19 years. So to end this up, Jesus, now you got 19 years in a British prison. Now, were you able to work any kind of a deal to get that sentence reduced, or how did that go down? How much time did you have to spend?
Actually, if you read the book, he got into more trouble while he was in prison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he decided that he was getting out, and he needed money, and so he hooked up with these British gangsters and tried to work out a deal, right, Jesus? And
yes.
It was doomed from the beginning because the British authorities had caught on and were bugging his prison cell. They were tracking his men, and he got busted on that. And fortunately for him, it didn't cost him a lot more time, and he was able to get out.
Right. So you've done all your time, and you didn't testify against anybody?
No, I done all my time, yes.
No, he never testified against anybody.
Okay.
On that.
Well, you're a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
met a few of you guys that then turned
Well,
their life around after they got out.
It's quite remarkable. I mean, a lot of people testified against him, but
Yeah.
you know, there was like there's 34 people in the UK, and I think 17 in Colombia that were arrested and busted, that were a part of his organization, and it came up to over 300 years.
Wow.
In jail. So it shows you how big his operation. And then when he got busted, the price of cocaine shot up 50% from 20,000 pounds a kilo to 30,000 pounds a kilo, which shows you the power that he had within the drug trade. You know what I mean?
Really, I'd always noticed that in the drug business, it's like no matter how big the seizure was, the price still stayed the same and actually went down over the years.
Yeah.
It just kept going down no matter how much money law enforcement poured into that, how many seizures you made. It's one historic seizure after another. The price just kept going down. And now,
yeah, I mean, it's good for PR. But that's how you can tell whether there's been any progress, is look at the price of cocaine. You know, it should rise, right? It should,
Right.
it should, and if it was really successful, it should shoot through the roof. But you look at the price of cocaine, and it's gone down.
Yeah.
You know, it's gone actually down, and supply and demand.
Really, I'm sure that somebody stepped in and took up the slack after Jesus left
Oh
the
yeah,
scene.
yeah. No, they didn't miss a beat. It was just like after Escobar, you know, left the
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
The Cali
Everyone.
cartel left the scene.
Yeah.
Al Chapo left the scene. There's always somebody. As long as you have demand, you're going to have somebody that wants to supply it.
Yeah, that's kind of part of the problem. But the only way we ever look at this is let's stop
Yeah.
the supplier and not doing anything about the demand. And as long as the demand's out there, there's going to
Yeah,
be a supplier.
exactly.
All right,
Exactly.
Ron and Jesus, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show.
But we enjoyed it.
Good luck in
Yeah.
your future endeavors, and
Yeah.
check my show notes out, folks, for all the books and links to Ron's website and all the books that he's written. And there's a bunch of them. He's prolific in the true crime genre, shall we say. And you still have your radio show. That's the first time I
Yeah.
met you, Ron.
Yeah,
I
right,
was on your show.
Exactly.
radio
I
show,
have Crime Beat
Crime
on
Beat.
the artistfirst.com website. It's a radio show. Tonight, in fact, I'm going to have Julie K. Brown, the woman that took down Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, yeah. I saw
Yeah.
that on Facebook somewhere.
Yeah,
That sounds
on that end.
interesting.
But this project is still ongoing. Tomorrow we're meeting with on Zoom, like you, with a British production company that won an Oscar to see about maybe optioning our book.
Oh, that'll be nice.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah,
pretty
well-
excited. We're pretty excited about that, right, Jesus?
Yes, we are very excited,
Yeah,
and we hope something coming on.
yeah, exactly.
Get Guy Ritchie to direct it, and get Brad Pitt to play Jesus if he could affect
You like-
Colombian accent. Leonardo DiCaprio,
I think Antonio Banderas should play him.
Antonio Banderas, he would be the best, actually. Yeah, I just love Brad Pitt. He's like he's a
Yeah.
Missouri boy. See, I want to
Yeah.
be Brad Pitt someday.
Yeah.
But yeah, Antonio Banderas being playing Jesus,
Yeah,
man, that'd be cool, wouldn't it?
yeah,
You'd be hanging out on the set. They'll pay you money just to hang out on the set.
Yeah.
I'm gonna whet your appetite here, Jesus. Frank Pilata, who was a mob guy, told me when Martin Scorsese first approached him, they just gave him $5,000 just to sit and talk to him for about an hour or two. And then,
Yeah.
then every time they turn around, they'd give him another $5,000 just to sit and talk to him.
yeah. That's great. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll be back on your show again.
Yeah,
Yes.
really, talk about the movie.
Yeah.
All right, Jesus, thank you. Ron, it's good to talk to you again. And,
Okay.
we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you. We enjoyed
Thank you
it.
very much.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Let me in the show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.